want to go to Christian heaven. I literally would detest ever having to go to Christian heaven. You may wonder, why am I making the statement? Shouldn't everyone want to go to a place where there is no sickness, no disease, no wars? None of those things are occurring. Wouldn't I want to be in that environment with God, a good God, a loving God? But what does the Bible say about heaven? As you peruse through your New Testament Bible and you look at what is described in Matthew and Mark and Luke, John and Revelations and any other parts of it, as it discusses heaven, it talks about the image that John of Patmos had of heaven, of all the saints sitting around the throne of God, praising this God all day. And there is no night, because this God is now the light and is providing light for all of humanity that made it into heaven. And of course, there are cherubims flying around this God's head, screaming, holy, 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 all day, all night. There are 12 judges who sit alongside Jesus and God. Those judges are the ones who judge the 12 tribes of Israel. And then everybody else is just there. Where's the free will in this heaven? There seems not to be, based on these descriptions, a free will element in heaven, because everyone is there just praising this God day after day after day after day. Now, many humans have created their own ideas of what heaven is like. Irenaeus wrote that in heaven, one of the greatest joys is to look over the edges of heaven. So heaven is not a place that's infinite, but look over the edge of heaven and peer down at those who are being tormented in the lake of fire for all eternity. Your grandmothers told you that heaven was going to be like church all day, where you're just happy and praising God all day, constantly. Your pastors taught you that, oh, in heaven, you'll be able to see your ancestors, reunite and have this glorious reunion with all your family members, with your aunties and uncles and your mother and your father and all your brothers and sisters who all made it into this heaven, that you'll have this grand family reunion. And those in the music world seem to think that there's going to be this great concert going up in heaven. Every time a great artist dies, oh, just think of the concert in heaven. Whitney Houston and Prince and Michael Jackson and all these other people that you love, that you think their music is great. And you say, oh, this is a great concert going on in heaven. But how do you know any of those people actually are going to make it to heaven? How do you know your ancestors are going to make it to heaven? You have no idea. Because based on what you've been taught on the Paulinian writings, is the fact that heaven will be filled with people who have done atrocities throughout their lives. But at the last moment or some moment in their life, they decide to give themselves over and believe in Jesus. John 3:16. For whosoever believeth in him shall receive eternal life. And so they will be in heaven, regardless of how they acted on earth. Of course, you must become a new creature, because Jesus said that there will be many who call out my name and those who have performed miracles in my name, but he will not know them. So how do you even know who's going to be there, since many who appear to be Jesus lovers were not, and Jesus won't recognize them? And then for all those people who have never heard of this Jesus, all my ancestors who were alive before the transatlantic slave trade and were forced into Christianity, all my ancestors in Africa who never heard of Jesus, all those people who never heard of Jesus prior to, well, they don't get to make it into heaven because they never worshiped Jesus. All my ancestors who were indigenous to America, who were forced into Christianity, not them, but the ones who were here before that, before Columbus and before the Virginia colonies and before anybody ever came to the East Coast of America, all my ancestors who were native to the Americas, none of those people make it into your heaven. Doesn't matter if they were a good mother or a good father, a good brother or a good sister, a good son or a good daughter. They don't get to go to your heaven because they never heard of your Jesus. And all the ancestors around the world prior to Moses and prior to Joshua and Noah and all these people, well, they never heard of those stories. So they never worship Yahweh. They don't get to go to heaven either. So as you've been taught in churches, when Jesus went down after the cross and was in the afterlife for 3 days ministering, my ancestors weren't there. And the majority of people who are listening to this, your ancestors weren't there. And he didn't go into Sheol in the sense that you think. He went into Abraham's bosom and ministered to those people and brought them out according to the biblical thought process. Those who were in Abaddon, they didn't make it. They didn't make it. So your choice of believing in a God that you cannot substantiate, who perpetuates genocide, the murdering of children, who perpetuates the enslavement of people who are non-Israelites, and perpetuates the thought of women being no more than cattle. If you do not believe and submit to this God, you can't go to this heaven. But I don't want to go either anyway. Because what is going on if you don't have free will and all you do is praise this God? There are streets of gold. There's rivers of milk and honey. There are the tree of life that produces fruit. But your station there is to praise this God for all eternity in front of his throne. Sounds egotistical, sounds narcissistic, but for you, it is simply slavery. If I don't have the choice of what I want to do in this heaven, how I want to live, it is slavery. And maybe this God is doing this slavery, perpetuating this slavery, because the last time this God did this, there was a revolt in heaven. So y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.